everybody. This is Harris Football. I'm Dave Piper. This is Christopher Harris. And we're here to talk to you about the shocking stats that you need to know for 2020 this year for fantasy football. They were pretty shocking, but all that shocking, Chris.
I mean, can we admit there are sometimes we title these things in order to try to get people to watch them? I mean, what's shocking? Are we really like literally promising people are going to feel like they've been electrocuted because we tell about some fantasy stats? I mean, they're stats I think that at least can call into question whether things are repeatable. Let's put it that way.
For sure. And one of the most shocking things that I saw, when I was shocked to see that over the last 4 years, Dak Prescott is the number three quarterback in all fantasy.
Which is, yeah, I mean, that in and of itself is shocking, right? And I think more shocking is how he's done it. We're going to show a full screen here of the percentage of quarterbacks, the top quarterbacks over the past 4 years, fantasy points that came from rushing touchdowns. And of course, Cam Newton's going to have a lot of those, right? Look at how many, look at the high percentage that Dak Prescott had too. And in fact, he had 6 each of the first 3 years. I think he only had 4 last year. So I won't even say like it's been consistent. I'm not going to say it's a total fluke. But how many times do we need to see quarterbacks not get the rushing touchdowns that we expect because not get a lot of 5-yard runs in the end zone? It just doesn't happen. Zeke gets them instead, and suddenly instead of being QB3, they're QB8. I wouldn't present this as the reason that I'm skeptical of Dak, although it's part of it. I don't think he's like an amazing runner. I think running quarterbacks have clearly been a feature. Running touchdowns have been a feature of his to this point. I wouldn't be shocked to see them go away because he doesn't have high rushing yard totals. The thing that seems crazy is the almost 5,000 yards passing last year. I'm not sure that recurs. I'm not sure that's who he is. I don't have Dak as a top 5 fantasy quarterback. I know it seems like most people do. This is part of why I think maybe the numbers are lying just a little bit on Dak.
And as most of the listeners know, I love to disagree with you as much as I possibly can, but I'm with you on this one. I'm not that excited about Dak, so I have to fall in line with you. We see eye to eye on this one. But
I see what you did there.
Eye to eye on something is we have a wonderful, wonderful advertiser with us today, Felix Gray.
Indeed, that was very smooth. That was like a multi-decade professional transition. Felix Gray glasses. They're the glasses that I'm wearing. Piper's got them on as well. I wear them anytime I'm writing these shows, anytime I'm recording the podcast. I've got Felix Gray glasses on to use the computer basically because digital eye strain is a real thing. Our eyes suddenly in these last 10, 15 years get so much more blue light than they've ever gotten before. And blue light tends to lead to digital eye strain. If you use the computer a lot or your devices, your tablets, and you get headaches or double vision, or just sort of by the end of the day, your eyes feel tired, I can speak that I have prescription Felix Grays and my eyes feel significantly better since I've been using them. They've been sponsoring the podcast for a couple of years now. Piper, you have young eyes, so you don't have prescription, but you do. Have you found they've been useful when you've been on the computer a lot?
Absolutely, yeah. I have bionic eyes. I had LASIK a couple of years ago, and honestly, I'm most impressed with just the blue light filter and how much less strain I have. But they're very comfortable too. I mean, you can see I have headphones on; they fit nicely. I barely even I love them.
Yeah, they're great. So, I mean, listen, of course, we know sponsors, you'd rather have videos be never like if you're going to support a sponsor, it's awesome if you get a pair of Felix Grays. They're totally reasonably priced. You'll be surprised. They have free shipping, free return. FelixGrayGlasses.com/HarrisTube. We really appreciate them sponsoring.
Yeah, we have 4 more players on our list to get to about these shocking
we do.
stats. I should say 4 more shocking stats that we have.
Shocking. Oh, I'm shocked. Yeah, they're shocking.
Yeah. This is going to be one of the most shocking stats you guys could ever hear, but we all are scared of the curse of 400, and this is a year we're coming up on.
Well, it's Christian McCaffrey. We're talking about McCaffrey because it doesn't happen anymore. I mean, people who have been playing fantasy for 10 years or whatever remember the time when the curse of 400 was a thing. You'd always be worried if your running back had 400 touches the year before because it meant blah. It meant they'd get hurt. It meant that they'd be less effective, whatever. It would take a lot out of them. And it was sort of an if your name wasn't LaDainian Tomlinson, it was sort of an unblemished record, like stay away from the guys, the curse of 400. And just the way backfields have been split up, up over this past decade, you don't really get there anymore. It's only happened, I think, 3 times in the last decade. I'm sure at this point, producer Dave is showing us the list of over the last, I don't know, 20 plus years of the people who've done 400. And the fantasy finishes the year after. Again, if your name wasn't LaDainian Tomlinson, it hasn't worked out great. Let's also mention that Christian McCaffrey is not the same size as any of these human beings on these lists that we're showing. You're talking about some big dudes. Jamal Lewis, big dude. Edger and James, big dude. Christian McCaffrey, little guy. Now, by the same token, Christian McCaffrey, a different style, isn't going to be asked to slam between the tackles as many times. A lot of his fantasy goodness is going to come from little screen passes where he's not taking big contact, where he's getting to run out in open space where he's so quick and good. I have Christian McCaffrey number 2 among running backs. So this is not me, and I whiffed on him last year. This is not me telling you he's bad and I know if he's going to get hurt. Piper, I'll just ask you, do you remember the days of the curse of 400? Do you remember being told to shy away? And if that's the case, if what we just saw on these full screens is true, do you have anxiety about McCaffrey still being young but potentially breaking down after these incredible high usage seasons?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah, I mean, something that I think that we talked about in the off season was I generally am worried about workload over seasons, and something we talked about, not to go on to a different player, but with Zeke's workload over the last couple seasons, I'm worried about.
You're scared of him too. Yeah.
I'm scared of him. I'm scared of McCaffrey in the same way. Looks like, maybe wide receiver is my answer in the first round, but. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you're talking let's face it, I'm the only person you're going to hear talking who has McCaffrey too. I have Barkley 1. I think Barkley's a better player and got hurt last year. And I recognize that that's not going to be the popular opinion. And I can't sit here and tell you, no, definitely, if they keep using McCaffrey, he's going to get hurt. He's going to get hurt eventually. He can't, just the history of the game tells us, if he's Barry Sanders, Barry Sanders retired at 30. So I guess, great. We would get a bunch more awesome, productive years out of McCaffrey. If he's anything short of Barry Sanders, I'm worried about McCaffrey. I think he comes with more risk than is being baked into him as the no doubt number 1.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's always a question about whether a player could play through injury. You're not really sure. And I know the next stat in our list is a guy that I've loved over the years. Even just saying his name makes me think of age. And the most shocking part of this stat for me was when you said that Julio Jones was 31, because I'm 32 this year, and I did not realize I was older than Julio Jones.
It's a shattering moment when you realize all your heroes are younger than you. Athletic heroes are younger than you. So the question, the thing that's going to plant seeds of doubt in people's minds about Julio is the age, right? Can an age 31 wide receiver keep doing it? Aren't we reaching the point of diminishing returns? Shouldn't I just go with Devontae Adams? Shouldn't I just go with DeAndre Hopkins? Isn't it just removing something from the equation? They have Calvin Ridley in Atlanta. Shouldn't I just, if I'm having to take him in the late first or early second, isn't it smart for me just to take that risk out of the equation? And the research project that I did in the Almanac, all of these are coming from research projects that I did in the Almanac, and I wound up with Julio as my number 3 receiver. So obviously I'm going to tell you I'm not that worried about it, but I was able to come up with the list that we've been showing you of just a whole lot of people over the last 10 years who were 31 or older who were spectacular for fantasy. And I think maybe something to come out of that list and think is that wasn't a bunch of fluky dudes. That was elite receivers all through their 20s who were able to maintain it into their 30s. They'd all already had a bunch of really good years. And obviously Julio's a Hall of Fame player and has had a bunch of unbelievable years. I can't tell you there's no more additional risk with Ridley being there or with, Julio being older. I'm just not willing to indulge it. I'm going to take him as I've always taken him. As the years go by here, there's no question. It gets risky every year. It gets riskier every year. I'm okay with it this year. So you're not that old, Piper.
No, not yet, at least.
Not yet.
But, I'm with you on Julio. The other thing I like about him is I've had him for years on a lot of my teams. He always plays hurt and plays well. If he's hobbling around out there, he can still produce, which is nice.
He can.
Even as an old guy. But on the younger end of the spectrum, we'd like to talk about a guy, A.J. Brown, with a pretty shocking stat about his rookie season. And
this is the one, man. This is the one that, for me, puts the giant red flag up about A.J. Brown. And I'm getting known as a Titans basher. I don't mean to be. I think there's a chance that I would view A.J. Brown differently if his quarterback wasn't Ryan Tannehill. If his quarterback wasn't comprised almost entirely of dog sausage, I might be more excited. But, I think anybody who watched any Tennessee games last year would acknowledge what A.J. Brown did amazingly was produce after the catch. He would catch something a little short slant, and he would just go. He'd be gone 80 yards. He'd win your week. He kept doing it over and over. He finished wide receiver 9 on 52 catches. It hasn't been done all that frequently. So the stat I want to talk about is average yards after the catch per reception. So what we're looking at here is just people in their rookie season. All right. These are guys in their rookie year who had the highest yards after catch per reception. A.J. Brown, on the average catch, averaged almost 10 yards after the catch, which among rookies over the last 15, actually it's 15 years since 2006, is the most, which is great because I think it does correspond with what kind of player that he is. He's a crusher. He's a Chris Godwin. He's a Deebo Samuel. He's a really strong, smaller but strong guy who's tough to tackle. He bounces off people. He's good. Is he the best? I don't have the graphic here for you, so I can't show you, but I can tell you that in that same time period, I started out with this research project on rookies, but in that same time period, A.J. Brown in 2019 for a single season had the highest average yards after the catch of any receiver in the league since 2006, not just rookies. So if you're going to tell me that A.J. Brown is the greatest open field runner in the last 15 years among wide receivers, I'll go, cool, repeatable, awesome. If you're going to tell me he's probably going to get tackled and get a little more attention and be a little more of a focus of like, let's make sure we get this guy on the ground, he's probably not going to be as productive. I will add and say, sure, but there's an argument that says 52 receptions doesn't happen again. He's going to be more like 80, and he's a good end zone player, so he's got a chance to still produce. And I have him wide receiver 18 on my list, but the reason he's not higher is exactly that stat, the yards after catch.
And that makes total sense because, yeah, like you said, he might draw a lot more attention going into the next season. And honestly, a lot of the stuff that happened, if you ask me, a lot of stuff that happened in Tennessee last year might have just been those weeks in Tennessee last year. And we might see a very different end of the spectrum just in Tennessee. So
right. I mean, big, super, super big plays. I mean, an offense that kind of was pretty conservative and stagnant. Otherwise, my experience is often that does not recur.
Absolutely. And
lastly,
we get to the coveted tight end ranking, and you have Kelsey number 1 overall.
Right.
Obviously, he's the best one in the league, but
sure.
Yeah. Oh.
But
tight ends generally disappoint, and so.
Yeah, I mean, well, the question is, everybody has Kelsey number 1. Should you draft him? I say no. No, don't draft him. And this is not a besmirching on, it's not like I think Kelsey's too old. I mean, it's interesting. Kelsey's getting up there. Kelsey's, guess what? Age 31. You're older than him too. This is age 31 season. But, there's a moment where that drops. No, that's not why I'm saying not to take Kelsey. It's because of where you have to take him. And the research project that I did and the numbers that we're showing you are the number 1 tight end drafted by ADP over the last, now it's 11 years. And Dave, how do these results look to you? I mean, we've seen exactly 1 top drafted tight end, highest drafted tight end, outperform his ADP. It was Jimmy Graham in 2013. So since 2013, I'm using the way I'm evaluating how well the tight end performed was via not raw fantasy point totals, but rather value-based drafting, which is a way of comparing players at different positions, and it includes scarcity, right? And if you are using VBD, tight end, the number 1 tight end almost never delivers his average draft position. Kelsey was decent last year. His overall ADP was 18. He finished 30 in ADP. I mean, in VBD, you'll take it. But man, look at Gronk in 2018. Look at Gronk in 2016. Look at Jimmy Graham in 2014. There's just way too many cases of the number 1 tight end not even finishing as the number 1 tight end, the number 1 tight end taken, not finished as the number 1 tight end in the standings. If you have to take Kelsey anywhere in that like 10 to 14 range, you tell me, Dave. These numbers have always scared the bejesus out of me, and I never want to do it. Do you ever find yourself being tempted to take the number 1 tight end on the board when you're at the turn there in the first round.
No, I would never. And just like you hit on the VBD, value-based drafting, that's a big thing for me. That's what I always lean on. So, yeah, I mean, I'm never, ever looking at a tight end before the 5th or 6th round, which I hate saying that sentence, but yeah.
Well, I mean, practically speaking, neither am I, practically speaking. But listen, if I'm in a draft where if I'm picking second, and then I come around and at 23, Travis Kelce's there, I'll consider him. It's reasonable price there for me. It's okay. But the reason this research project even exists is that never happens. Like someone will take the tight end before then, and I'm not going to be the one.
Yeah, I'm not willing to roll the dice either. But thanks for sitting down and making my hair stand on end and having shocking stats. They were
so
crazy. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. And
yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.